Goodreads Virtual Book Club. I'm Brianna, and this is...
Hi, I'm Elsa.
And this month, we read this book. It is technically a teen book, but definitely enjoyable for adults too, called Firekeeper's Daughter. This one has a lot of buzz, so you may have seen it many other places. I've heard a lot about it. It also just won the Michael Prince Award for teen fiction, which is exciting. But basically, first we'll do a little summary, and then we'll talk about the book, and then once we get to a part where there'll be spoilers, we'll announce that there's spoilers after this point. So if you haven't finished it yet, don't go beyond the spoiler point. If you have and you want to talk about all of the details, just join us in the spoiler review. So basically, Firekeeper's Daughter is about a young woman named Daunis. She starts out, she's 18, she just graduated from high school, and she was supposed to go to the University of Michigan on a hockey scholarship, but for reasons we don't know yet, has decided not to do that and is going to the local, I couldn't tell if it was like a state college or a community college.
Yeah.
Because they called it something state.
Yeah, I believe it was a state school, and then she was going to transfer at some point, or that was the plan. I think it was a state school.
I think so too.
Yeah.
With her friend Lily. Daunis is super into like medicinal plants and herbology and things like that. So that's kind of where her focus is. And it also is very aligned with the way Daunis thinks too. Like she's a very logical thinker.
Yeah.
Like everything has an order. Like Lily says that Daunis has basically only black and white thinking.
Yeah.
Because she is so logical and so scientific, which in large part I think is due to her Uncle David, who is the local high school science teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, Uncle David just recently passed away under mysterious circumstances.
Yeah.
It was very out of character, but you learn that he basically passed away from an overdose, which was extremely out of character for him.
Yeah.
That's like really not the lifestyle he led. So Daunis, and it's mostly, I'm sure Daunis's mother thinks the same, but she's so wrapped up in guilt, you don't really know what she thinks.
Yeah. Mom's she doesn't play a huge part in we don't hear a lot from the mom because she is grieving like a lot of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because not only has her brother died, her mom also had a really big stroke and is now in a care home, recovering from the stroke, but has basically lost the ability to speak and move on her own. And so Daunis's mom goes and visits her mother at the care home, and Daunis does as well. It's like part of her daily run ritual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she kind of starts every morning. She says a prayer for kind of whatever idea she wants to bring into the day.
Yeah.
And then goes on a run and ends up hanging out with her
home.
Grandma and her mom. So they're dealing with a lot already. On top of, Daunis's decision to not go to college, or at least not go to the college that they wanted her to go to.
Yeah.
But still going to a college. And that's pretty much the beginning of the book, and you kind of follow Daunis as she starts to learn more about how her Uncle David passed away, what's been happening in the community with a lot of the young people. It is a coming of age story, but also a lot more. You kind of just start getting a glimpse into Daunis's world and, her best friend Lily, and they have this like great little banter, and they're so excited. They're planning on their classes, and they're going to get textbooks and all of this stuff. This isn't really a spoiler. It is in the very beginning. But her friend Lily has a boyfriend named Travis, kind of on and off again boyfriend.
Yeah, kind of a toxic relationship.
Yes. And he used to be like one of the smartest kids in school, and then it's very well known that he is involved in meth and also making meth. And so they go to a party, kind of like a cool, like, high school's over.
Yeah.
Your next chapter is starting type of party. And Daunis is, like, texting Lily and seeing where she is because she's not there yet. She hasn't heard from her. And basically what happens is that Travis shoots Lily and then shoots himself.
Yeah.
Because Lily wants to break up with him.
Yeah, and this all happens right in front of Daunis.
Yes. Which we should mention that a new character gets introduced in this timeline. His name is Jamie. He is on the hockey team. But basically it's this, league for really good young teen players.
Yeah.
Like a traveling league, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
I think that's what I understood as well.
But Daunis used to be on this team, but is no longer because she graduated high school. And her brother Levi and this new character, Jamie, are on the hockey team. And Daunis is supposed to be like Jamie's guide to the area and also to the league and kind of just help him get assimilated and comfortable in the new area.
Yeah, they jog together. She kind of shows him around town.
Yes.
A little bit of like history around that area.
Yeah, exactly. And so they do have like a rapport, and they go to this party together. And after Travis shoots Lily right in front of Daunis and himself, Jamie kind of like transforms before our eyes into something we didn't know he was, and it's basically like, you have to leave now. Like, you can't be involved in this whatsoever.
Yeah. They kind of just take off really abruptly, and she's like,
and Daunis is
and
Daunis is basically in shock. Like, she doesn't quite know what to do, so she just follows him. And that's when we find out that Jamie is not really here to play hockey.
Yeah.
He works for the FBI, like a 21 Jump Street situation. And he is trying to figure out, supposedly, there's like some different strain of meth that's been found in indigenous communities in this area that is like very hallucinogenic and causes like group hallucinations. And they're there to figure out how that's manufactured and how to stop it.
Yeah.
Because it's Jamie, and what we first were introduced to is his uncle, but it is just his co-worker on this undercover mission. Because his uncle, Ron, is like, I don't think he's a coach, but he also is in this hockey league world.
He's also taking over Uncle David's
high school job, as the science teacher. Which I don't. Is it chemistry?
I think it was chemistry. Yeah.
So many roles, and we learn. I mean, I guess this is it is a spoiler, but it isn't, because it is in the very beginning of the book.
Yeah.
So we'll just say it's spoiler adjacent. So if you want no spoilers whatsoever, don't listen. But this is kind of when we find out that Uncle David was an informant for the FBI.
Yes.
Trying to help them figure out where this meth was coming from in this community.
Yeah.
And Ron and Jamie asked Daunis to take over his role as their informant, to find out what and where is this meth, and like who's producing it. Basically, anything that they can understand about what's happening. And Daunis feels pretty conflicted about it, because they're asking her, because Daunis she's part native, half native, half white, is how she's described, and she's kind of stuck in the middle between two worlds. So her mom, they're like the Fontaines, they're like they kind of founded this town. They're really wealthy, very well-to-do, very well known throughout this area. And then her dad's side, the Firekeepers, are very, very well known in the indigenous community, and are very high up. Like her aunt, her dad's sister, is on the tribal council, but Daunis is kind of like stuck between the two. And like doesn't really feel like she really fits in.
Especially because like her being born or being conceived was like town drama, because their worlds were so far apart, and now she kind of like exists in these two different spaces.
Not to mention her mom was only 16. It was a big scandal, and her mom basically got sent to, I guess we should say it now, her mom got sent to Montreal to have Daunis, and then while her mom was there, her dad got together with Levi's mom. And they're 3 months apart. She and her brother. So, it led to a lot of animosity, and I don't think it helped Daunis feel more comfortable in either place, because she was a huge scandal in both communities. Not just one or the other. But Daunis knows a lot about her native heritage, and like really upholds those beliefs that her aunt has taught her, and knows a lot about the different plants in the area and their medicinal properties. And that's kind of why, in one sense, that Jamie and Ron pick her, because she has such a foothold in two different worlds. So they think that she'll be a good candidate to help them. Also, I really don't think they have anyone else. So
they don't know where to start at all, so they're like, Daunis.
Your uncle was doing this, so therefore you too. So I think with a lot of misgivings, she does agree to help them. A lot in part because she wants to know what happened to her Uncle David, because her mom is so distraught. Like, the book does not say, this is completely opinion on my part, but I think that Daunis's mom and Uncle David were twins. I mean, really, it's not important to the plot, but I think they're twins, and I think their relationship is very reflective of Daunis and Levi's, because they are all so close in age. They're kind of both the polar opposites of the other. So like Uncle David was very reasoned, Daunis's mom is very emotional. Daunis is also very reasoned, but kind of like stuck between these two worlds, and her brother Levi is full out golden boy, everybody loves him, and Daunis is a scandal.
He's like sweet and like they are it didn't click, but no.
It's just, again, this book also deals with a lot of generational things, where it be like generational traumas or things that you inherit from your family, and I think this is one way of showing that parallel of generational ideology is directly with this brother-sister pairing who are so close and so close in age. But so mainly she wants to do it to figure out what happened to Uncle David, because nobody who knew him believes that he was a drug user at all.
Yeah. He was kind of, he was gay, so he was a little bit isolated from his family.
Yes.
But yeah, it was very...
It's out of character.
Yeah.
Because he was like... He just seemed like a very sweet, sensitive guy who was very into helping the kids in the high school kind of achieve their goals.
Yeah.
Like somebody you could really depend on and rely on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just very out of character.
Yeah.
But she agrees, and it kind of starts her secret missions, but also like kickstarts a completely different angle of the plot. Because there's a lot of plot in this book.
Yes.
There's a lot going on. Everybody is intertwined together. Talking about generational.
Yeah.
Everybody, like, there's one family called the Nodens, and I feel like from the description that they're related to half the town.
Yeah.
Because they're all so interconnected. But basically, starts this new goal for herself, but in a way, it kind of kickstarts Daunis figuring out who she is outside of her identifying with either the Fontaines or the Firekeepers.
Yeah.
Like, it allows her to forge kind of a new path, which is good and bad. Like, she does start keeping secrets from everybody.
Yeah.
Where she never did before.
Yeah, she's very close to her aunt, and she's always believed. I think at some point it said, like, I thought my aunt could tell when I was lying. And she's like, sadly, now I know that she can't tell because she's constantly lying now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But it kind of does break her out of the mold that she was in, of this in-between, and kind of forging her own path in a way. Not always, it doesn't always end well.
No.
But I think it does give her more agency in a way.
Yeah. So she's working very, I don't know how to put this, with Ron and with Jamie. She's kind of being kind of upfront, and then kind of is like, oh wait, I don't have to just follow along or like do what they're telling me, follow their assignments. I have like not a choice, but I can withhold information to gain information from them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because she has a mission of her own outside of this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not only Uncle David, but she wants some sense of justice for Lily.
Yeah.
And more women in this community who are affected by this meth
X.
Yeah,
That's what
meth
they call
X is what they call it, because they don't know what the additive property is.
Yeah.
Because it is interesting that, like, just the sense of justice, like how justice differs in differing eyes. Like, with Ron and Jamie, it's pretty clear-cut justice by the law.
Yeah.
But in the tribal community, justice may not look like that, especially among the women. Like, they have these things called blanket parties, where if, like, a man or somebody has abused a woman or something, they basically take him to the woods and beat him up. And I think that it's really interesting to see different people's versions of justice and how generationally, especially with the generational trauma, because a lot of the tribal members in the book sadly were part of residential schools.
Yeah.
And had all of their agency taken away and their culture taken away. And there really, like, is no justice for that, and how they have taken the idea of justice in a different direction than the like very black and white
Yeah.
Ron and Jamie
Right.
sense of justice. And I think that because Daunis is like in both sides, her sense of justice, like, yes, she does have very black and white thinking, but it starts to be a little bit more gray.
Yeah, like she develops like a more nuanced idea of justice. Yeah.
Yeah, because you see, like, it isn't really black and white. Like, yes, Travis committed a crime and no one's saying he didn't, but just like his life was also lost because of the meth production. Like, he was like such a great kid before. He was in all of the honors classes. Like, you know, he and Daunis were great friends. And then because this got introduced into his life, it really changed the entire trajectory of what he might have become. And I think Daunis starts to become really good at, like you said, looking at nuance and seeing people for, like, being actual people. Yeah. Like, you know, you may see them as this black and white image, but actually, and she even, she tells Ron and Jamie, like, kind of everybody's secrets. Yeah. But, like, how, there's so much more than this one thing. Like, they've done all of these things as well.
Yeah, I think in an unfortunate way, Ron and Jamie give her something to, like, butt up against. Yeah. So it's like she had, like, this black and white sense of, or, like, black and white thinking, but then you see Ron and Jamie, and, okay, they have, like, literally no...
It's more
background. Yeah. So that changes her thinking, which it's terrible that she had to grow in
such
because of that.
Yeah, in such a horrific fashion and so quickly. Yeah. Too, because it, you know, I mean, when we begin with Daunis, I mean, yes, she's had a lot to deal with, and she has had to grow up pretty fast, but she's still, like, she and Lily are still, like, just very naive kids who are so excited about this new chapter in their lives. Yeah. And then when Lily is murdered, it, like, just completely gone. Like, pretty much the foundation is ripped out from underneath Daunis because she doesn't know who she is anymore without Lily. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, like, her mother is grieving, like, so many things all at once. So including who she used to be.
Yeah, and so is Daunis. Yeah. And I feel like, too, that's one reason that she accepted being this, like, informant, is because she's just trying to grasp a hold of anything to keep herself afloat. Because she just doesn't know what to do anymore. Yeah. Because she starts going to the state school, but then she becomes the informant, and she starts skipping school to find mushrooms on this island that she thinks might have attributed to this meth X, and kind of pours everything she has into this specifically because going to college without Lily is so painful for her. Yeah. Because she just thinks about, like, you know, Lily should be here. We should be getting our textbooks together. We should be going to this class together. Yeah. And that's, too, where we meet another, like, not main character, but important character. Her name is Robin, and she was on the hockey team with Daunis. They were pretty much the two only girls on this male-dominated hockey team. And, you know, Robin is basically just trying to help Daunis kind of process her grief. And we think, at least at the time, we were all led to believe that Robin's going to school here. Yeah. And we find out she's not. Yeah. Because while they're trying to search for this meth X and who's making it, Robin and another young girl named Heather both lose their lives. In also mysterious circumstances like Uncle David, where it's semi out of character for both. Yeah. Like, we learned that Daunis severely hurt her shoulder playing hockey, but Robin also got injured. And when they went to the doctor for their injuries, they were offered oxycodone, and Robin becomes addicted to it after this hockey injury, whereas Daunis's aunt wouldn't even let Daunis have it.
Right. And Robin passes away.
Yes.
But not because of her addiction to prescription medication. It was like a meth overdose?
It was a meth overdose. Which that's like how everyone has passed away so far, as a meth overdose, with the exception of Travis and Lily.
Right.
But Heather, who didn't even have meth on her, they find meth on her person, and she passed away from a meth overdose. So did Robin. And like Daunis becomes even more adamant in trying to find this out, because she knows both of those young ladies, and is like, this is not like them.
Right.
She also knows exactly what was in Heather's pockets.
Yes.
So she knows for sure that there was no meth in her pockets.
Yeah, because unfortunately Heather was dealing, but
not
just
meth.
like opened up her pack and was like, here, take a
look.
And
Yeah, so it just kind of, it makes her even more adamant to figure it out. She's also growing closer and closer to Jamie. So we find out Jamie is also of Indigenous heritage, but he doesn't really know where or who or how even to find out.
Yeah.
So I think they grow close in the fact that they're both kind of adrift between worlds. Which is kind of problematic in many senses.
Yeah.
Her relationship with Jamie.
Yeah, he's actually 22.
He's 22. He works for the FBI.
Yeah.
She doesn't even know his real name or anything about him.
Yeah, and I don't think we mentioned, but the whole thing that they're doing with Jamie and Daunis.
Yeah, no, we didn't.
Which they're boyfriend and girlfriend in this investigation, like fake dating scenario.
Yes, like that's their cover.
Yeah.
That's how they can be together.
Yeah.
And like exchange information, is their boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah. But they're really committed to it.
They're too committed, to the point where Ron is like, you guys,
you gotta cut it off.
You gotta stop. This is beyond the point where you should be at.
Yeah.
Because we also learn Jamie's last assignment, he also went off the rails, a little bit like this, and ended up getting really hurt.
Yeah. Also with a confidential informant.
Yes.
So
he has a track record with his TIs. There's so much plot.
There's a lot. Yeah.
So they're trying to find out where this meth X is, and there's so many more characters that get introduced, but basically Levi has this circle of guys, and they're all on the hockey team, but it's like Mike, who is the son of like one of their big donors, who Daunis calls Call Me Grant.
Yeah.
Because he's real sleazy and gross.
And he was like Mr. Grant, and then like now she's out of high school, and he's like, oh, call me Grant.
Yeah, so she calls him Call Me Grant.
Yeah. And he's also, I don't remember if this is right, but he's a dentist or a doctor.
Yeah.
Or like in some medical.
Yes. I don't remember either, but that, yes.
Yeah.
And then there's another young man named Stormy, who has a pretty rough family life, so basically kind of lives with Levi and Levi's mom.
Yeah.
And they all kind of run in a circle.
Which Travis was in at some point until
Travis was
something
in.
big bad happened.
Yeah.
Kicked out.
And then he got kicked out. Which we learned later that the reason he got kicked out wasn't Travis's fault at all.
Yeah.
Because it does really reveal the true character of some of these people who we only see glimpses of on the surface.
Yeah.
Even people super close to you, like Daunis's brother Levi is this like golden boy. Everybody loves him. He's so wonderful.
Yeah.
And then you kind of lift up the top and look underneath, and he has a lot of secrets
Yeah.
It turns out everybody has a lot of secrets.
Everybody has a lot of secrets.
And Daunis is starting to figure out everybody's secrets. To the detriment of herself, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes her foundation crumble even more because nothing and no one she knows is who she thinks them to be. Right. Except the elders. But even them, like, we do have, and we'll include it in the description, but there's a whole book kit for this book from NetGalley, I believe. But, like, her aunt tells Daunis that not every elder is a cultural teacher and not all cultural teachers are elders. Basically, it's okay to listen to what everybody has to say, but you don't always have to take it as the truth.
Yeah.
You take what you need and leave. And not everybody is what they seem, no matter what their position is. And I think that's very true of this town as a whole.
Yeah.
Is these cultural leaders in this town are not necessarily what they seem or what they're portrayed as being. And just because they are a cultural leader and you are supposed to respect their authority doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah. Which we see closer to the ending where people who have, at least in her, like, hockey life, that were important to her, fail her in very big ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the ladies in her indigenous community are, like, so wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Lily's grandma, her name's Granny June. She's my favorite character.
She's amazing.
But she really helps build up a support system for Daunis and, like, really pleads her case because Daunis wants to join the tribe as a full member.
Yes.
But because her father's name isn't listed on her birth certificate, has not been able to. And the elders, especially Granny June, but also Daunis's aunt, really push for her to join. And you need, like, a ton of stuff in order to prove you are from this specific tribe.
Yeah.
This one that Daunis is wanting to be a part of, you have to have, like, a letter, basically, like, letters of recommendation from your tribal elders.
And she has to have at least 3.
You have to fill out an application, and you also have to, your blood has to match that of a relative who is enrolled in the tribe to a certain degree.
Right.
And so her aunt does that for her.
Yeah.
And that's kind of also up in this mix of whether Daunis's application is going to get accepted or not, because the tribal council gets to vote on it. And that plays a big part in the story as well. But basically, they're finding out all of this information and they're doing all of this stuff. And they're going to these different hockey tournaments where they can kind of see a little bit more about hockey world, but also you get to meet new people that are important to the latter half of the story.
Yes. And
start to see who they really are.
Yes, some very unlikable individuals.
Yes, including Call Me Grant, who is a truly terrible person. So it's like, I feel like at this point the story really starts rolling on this plot of finding who the culprit is and, like, finding out, like, all of the secrets this community has been holding that nobody even knew they were holding.
Just, like, bubbling underneath the surface.
Basically.
Yeah.
And Daunis is, like, going full force into figuring this out and what's happening. They're kind of starting to figure it out. Daunis is starting to put the pieces together. She's starting to kind of suspect everybody.
Yeah.
Like literally everybody, including her own brother.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Because at one of their away tournaments, there's this box of hockey pucks that Call Me Grant says is meant for the Indigenous kids hockey team.
Yeah, to just like practice with, and they give some away
during the games, but they're like really poorly made.
Yeah. Not regulation weight.
Foreshadowing.
Yes.
And then Daunis finds, after the terrible thing that happens with Call Me Grant at their, like, it's kind of like, seemed like prom-ish.
Yeah.
Kind of.
It's like a big deal. Everybody dresses up.
Yes.
There's a dance.
A big celebration, a dinner.
Yeah.
Like, it's a whole thing. Her brother, Levi, she asked her brother for a scarf that her dad had because she wants to feel more connected to him, and that scarf has like a memory attached to it that makes her feel very connected to her dad, which she explains is one of the reasons she plays hockey, is because that's where she feels the most connection with her dad, because her dad has passed away.
Yeah, so as a birthday present, that's what she asked.
Yes, that's what she asked.
From Levi,
yes.
He supposedly has it.
And Levi said he didn't have it, but he brought her like a choker.
Yeah. That he wore with his regalia when he was dancing at powwows.
Yes, exactly. Instead.
Yeah.
And then we also find out from Daunis's mom that Levi left something else for her in her room. Well, Levi says he did, but he also left something extra. Yeah. That he didn't tell her about. And it is that box of hockey pucks that have false bottoms, and hidden inside them is the meth X in question that we've been looking for.
Which she's already starting to suspect from Levi, because they have a joint.
Yes, they have the joint bank account.
Canadian bank account. Yes. And they get like some money every month. However, like it's an obnoxious amount that's in the bank account. Yes. Where it's like instead of like $400, it's like
$4,000, $10,000, $15,000. Yeah. And Levi says that he's going to buy a piece of land on the Canadian side, because they're like real close to the border between Canada and Michigan. And he says he's going to buy this piece of land, and that's not where the money. Yeah. He's lying about how he's getting the money.
She gets a hold of the like statements, and it's like, oh, this is not right. No. So she breaks into his room, and then fast forward to the hockey pucks. So it all starts adding up.
Yes. She also found the scarf.
Yeah.
In Levi's room when she broke in. And she does call the bank. And she also found a secret, like, notebook of her uncle's. Because her uncle, David, and her mom had this, like, very special, like, twin-speak language that's half Italian, it's like a third Italian, a third French, and, like, a third gibberish. Yeah. Combined.
Yeah.
And she knows how to speak it, too. And she believes that the latter part of Uncle David's notebook is meant specifically for her because it's in this twin speak language, talking about a special student who was asking a whole bunch of questions about different scientific properties of plants and things, and everybody thought that it was Travis, the special student, but it was Levi.
Yes.
And which perhaps is why also Uncle David kept information from the FBI, because he knows that, I mean, this is basically his nephew too, because they all grew up together, and it's a family member. Yeah. Probably believing that he could help Levi. Yeah. But they, it's not mentioned. And we find out that yes, it was Levi. Levi's been like trafficking meth through these hockey pucks for a long time. Yeah. And like this ring of distribution is very wide. And then basically everybody gets kidnapped.
Yes. Onto, was it Duck Island, Sugar Island?
Duck Island, I think.
With no signal.
No cell phone signal, which has been previously established that there's no cell phone signal here because of the cave system. Jamie got kidnapped, and that, like, Daunis was looking for Jamie, and then Levi's mom drugged Daunis.
Yes, which...
And then Daunis gets kidnapped in the same trailer with Jamie.
Yeah.
And basically, they want Daunis because they don't have Travis anymore, and they need somebody with enough smarts and skill to make meth for them so they can continue their distribution ring.
Yes.
And we find out that the whole circle of hockey boys that Levi is involved with are part of this meth ring, their head being Mike, the son of Call Me Grant. So, yeah.
And then she's basically, like, given a choice, like, agree and your little lover boy will leave him alone.
Yes.
Supposedly.
Or, you know, you both die.
Or,
Basically.
Which...
And it was because, you know, Daunis and Levi seem to have such a super close brother-sister relationship. And then you see Levi basically just not say anything to help Daunis whatsoever.
Yeah.
And put her indirectly in harm's way to gain and profit for himself.
Yeah.
We also learn a lot about the past. And Levi's mom and their shared dad. And how, you know, that wasn't necessarily a consensual relationship.
Right.
And because Daunis's mom is pretty much pined for the dad since she was 16 years old.
Yeah.
So at least 19 years.
Right.
Because that's how old Daunis is.
Yeah. And, It's kind of upsetting.
It's very upsetting.
The whole situation is pretty upsetting.
It is. And it's like, this poor family, they just so much. And just the generational trauma alone of all of the different families in the book is pretty severe.
Yeah.
But it just seems, which... is a lot. Like, this book is pretty heavy. Like, it has its very heavy moments. Like, the ending is like a very action-packed ending. Like, Daunis basically says that, I'll help you, I'll make this meth with you, and then is hoping that she can convince her brother otherwise. But kind of figures out she can't, and then in a really cool turn, all of the elders that Daunis has spent kind of her whole time helping have this, like, amazing group text ring. And they help her out. And then you're like, cool, she's going to get away. This is, you know, it's going to save the day. And then she gets in the car with the hockey coach. And it turns out that their hockey coach, who has also said these people in Daunis's life were supposed to protect her, and be mentors to her. The hockey coach is part of the meth ring too. And basically Daunis, like, kind of take hold of the wheel and then crash his truck. Then she goes and saves Jamie, and we learned then that Jamie basically let Mike go. Like, he offered him it wasn't a deal.
It was like, hey, you are probably gonna be fine if you just
disappear,
run and do nothing about. Just go. Don't hurt anybody. You're wealthy enough to
get away with it.
And
so that's what happens. And then after Jamie's rescued, Daunis basically passes out because her liver got punctured in the car accident. And then Daunis wakes up in the hospital. She's a tribal member now, but her grandmother also passed away.
Yes.
Even more grieving.
Yeah.
And then Jamie comes and kind of wants to, like, have a relationship for real.
Yeah.
And Daunis is like, no, which I support the decision she made.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that part of the book. I liked that the author didn't go with the romance trope at the end. You know, and it's so many action movies too, where like the guy saves the girl, but in this one the girl saved everyone and doesn't want the guy. Yeah,
I mean, it shows a lot of growth from her. She is basically like, you're on your journey, I'm on my journey.
Yes.
I don't know if I said that right, but basically we can't do this together.
No.
It's important you figure out who you are by yourself.
Yes.
And it's important that I do everything I'm doing by myself. And then maybe in the future, perhaps.
If our paths might cross.
Yeah, perhaps.
But like...
But no.
Yeah, because basically Jamie wanted to put everything on Daunis.
Yeah. And
kind of like what Travis did with Lily. And, you know, that's very destructive. And Daunis is self-aware enough to be like, that's not something I want for myself.
Yeah.
As hard as it is, because she does have feelings for him. Pretty intense feelings for Jamie.
Yeah.
But she's also only 19.
Yeah.
I mean, just starting her life. And then, I mean, I don't want to end it there. So we'll end at the end of the book where, because the book ends where they're going to a powwow and Daunis gets to wear her jingle dress and basically gets to perform a dance of like hope and healing.
Yeah, because she's been in mourning for a year, I believe, for Lily.
Yes, for Lily.
So this is the first time she's dancing at a powwow.
And it's a big deal because Daunis was always very self-conscious of her dancing because she feels like she doesn't have the natural rhythm of a lot of the other dancers, but is like taking a big step towards her own personal growth and personal healing, and also is going to go to college in Hawaii to study like in how indigenous medicine and modern medicine intersect. Yeah. And then like have like a fellowship with one of the elders. It was
good for her. I was like, okay.
Yes. It was good for Daunis.
It was not like a super happy ending. A lot of things happened, but it's like, okay, she's doing things
her way.
Her way, yeah.
And she's going to be okay. Yeah. Like, I mean, pretty much every terrible thing that could happen happened to Daunis. Yeah. And a lot of the other women in this community, but they have found their own paths and are moving forward. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I liked it.
I did too. The book kit has content warnings, which I would recommend reading beforehand because it's a lot. It was a lot. It was a heavy read.
It was a very heavy read. There's a lot of characters, a lot of generational traumas, and atrocities on past and present characters. It was a lot. It's very heavy. It's definitely geared towards an older YA audience. Mm-hmm. But was a good read.
Yeah, and I think this is her first book. So
this is her first book. I mean, for a debut, she knocked it out of the park.
She did. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's all we can say about this book without giving
any more away.
Any more away than we already did. But thank you so much for watching. Please join us in February. We are going to participate in the National African American Read-In program. And we are going to read Harlem Shuffle by Colson Whitehead. So we hope you will join us in February.